Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Archontou here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm so grateful that you could spend some time with us together on this afternoon or whenever you happen to be watching this broadcast. Today's topic is an important one for sure. It's one that definitely hits home for all women and something we should all be paying a lot of attention to, and that is the focus of financial literacy. We know that it's important for people to be able to manage their finances, but for women, it's even more critical. Based on the facts and the data, we know that women tend to live longer and at times not be the bigger earner in most families. And the gaps in employment because of caring for children or aging all plays a role in this for women. We can't rely on someone else to, take care of them, especially as we age. And so it's important to understand our financial literacy and figure out how we can make money work for us best. And so with that, we have an event scheduled on Thursday morning, November 18th, just 2 days from now at 10 a.m. And we will be having a When on the Go workshop, which is our Women's Empowerment Network, and it's going to be focused on this discussion. Today, we're just going to do a quick preview for you, just to give you a sense of what we will be talking about. And we hope you can join us. There is no charge for our event on Friday. All you have to do is register, and we will put the link here in the comments in case you would like to do that while you're watching with us. And so today, I'm so grateful. We have 3 panelists with us from the full panel for that day. We have Miss Corethia Oates, who is the Vice President Manager at and Financial Advisor for Morgan Stanley. And we also have, I'm sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulty. We also have with us Miss Leslie Tayne, who is the founder and managing director of Tayne Law Group. She is an award-winning financial attorney and author of Life and Debt. Leslie has over 20 years of experience in the consumer and business financial debt solutions arena, and including negotiations and large international banks, credit agencies for loans, lines of credits, credit cards, student loans on behalf of clients. She is the founder and managing director, as I said, of Tayne Law Group, and which is headquartered in New York City, dedicated to debt solutions and alternatives to bankruptcy for individuals and businesses. Her insights have been featured on the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Fortune, and other news outlets. In addition, she appears on news and talk shows. Highlights include Cheddar, Yahoo Finance, and ABC News. So thank you, Leslie, for joining us. We also have Lynne Algrant, who is a regular. We've had her on a few times over the course of the time since we've launched our show here. She is the Vice President for Planning and Development and Communications at Greater Bergen Community Action. Prior to joining them, she served as the CEO of Bergen Volunteers. In January of 2017, she was named one of 17 people to watch by NorthJersey.com. She served as a council member at large for the city of Englewood between 2010 and 2015, and was elected twice by her peers as council president. She founded H10A Consulting, a practice focused on issues of leadership and effectiveness, and her clients have included the Association of Black Foundation Executives, the Cleveland Fire Department, the Harvard School of Design, Bergen Leads, among others. And going back to where we started with Corethia Oates, also a regular, on YWTV, she's the Senior Portfolio Manager, Vice President, Financial Advisor at Morgan Stanley, and a highly experienced certified exit planning advisor who works collaboratively with a team of professionals to help business owners and families with money management advice and core investment strategies aligning with their values without sacrificing financial returns. So I'm sure our viewers can tell why we have amassed you all to be having a discussion with us about money. The big lots of good information here with these ladies, and Shania Bell is watching and is happy to have you all here, as I am as well. So Leslie, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about some of the financial equality barriers that women face.
So thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this topic and really get this out there. So there are a number of financial equality barriers that women face on a regular basis. There's certainly the gender wage gap, which still exists. Women feeling really less confident about their finances than men, especially with women who've been raised in very traditional households where either financial education or financial discussions were limited. They've been left to figure out the finances on their own. And that certainly leads to feeling a little less confident and not having that background. And, with that, the financial education and knowledge in general has been limited to women up until lately. And even then, it's still lagging. And so as women become head of households, in many cases, they really lack the not only the confidence, but the knowledge to assist them throughout the process of managing their household. And managing your personal finances is a microcosm of what's really on a larger scale. And that financial equality barrier does bleed into other areas and certainly into work-related areas. So, assessing or accessing financial resources can also be really challenging for women. I found that many women that I've worked with in my practice who have had a death of a spouse or a financial situation, a divorce, even where now they find themselves on their own, they are looking for resources and ways to help educate themselves so that they can manage finances and really build up that equality to what others that they may be competing with have. So with that, it's important to understand that it still really does exist, and it's not as widely talked about. And that's why I'm so glad that we're having this conversation, because if we can get the word out about what does financial equality mean, what are these barriers that women face, we can start to tear that down.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, this is a culture shift, that we're trying to make in terms of thinking. And especially, as we were talking about your background, Leslie, and the work that you're doing. I mean, so many women are really plagued with such serious financial challenges that it's overwhelming, and they really end up feeling uncomfortable with dealing with money as a result of it. So, what are some of the ways that women can improve their money mindset and just, have a different mentality and a different relationship, if you will?
The first thing that women need to do is be aware that you're not alone, that this is a common issue and that you're not alone. And once you realize that you're not alone in this, you can find resources and reach out to groups that might be helpful to you. People have a tendency to go inward when they feel ashamed or embarrassed about topics, and money management and the failure to manage money effectively becomes a topic of which people feel embarrassed or ashamed about. There is a societal stigma on that as well. As people, there's lots of discussions about good credit scores and good credit and lending and interest rates. And all of that leads to feelings of either insecurity or uncomfortableness. So there are ways to improve the mindset by understanding, one, be aware that you might be feeling this way. Two, that it's okay that you feel this way, that it's normal, that feeling anxiety, feeling pressure, feeling stress related to money and topics that either you don't have a lot of knowledge about or that don't come easy to you can be challenging, and that's okay. So seeking out others to help you, whether it's a friend, a trusted advisor, or an organization that you feel comfortable working with to help teach you some basic skills and basic knowledge about finances, money, what are the barriers that you might be facing in your particular situation, are all okay. That it's not common knowledge to understand how to build wealth, how to understand financial terms, like what does credit really mean? What does that score mean? What does it mean to take out a credit card, to open a bank account, and how does my spending impact all this? All that many people learn on the go. So understanding that you just may not be well versed in it, it's okay. Looking for a community or those that you can trust to help you through that is the best way to go ahead to empower yourself and start building down those barriers.
Absolutely. And we know that the way so many of us are introduced to credit cards and this relationship with money, like you said, doesn't happen in any kind of organized fashion. You just it's almost like a snowball rolling down a hill.
Well, you become a grown-up and then you get it. So
yeah.
if you went to college when they offered you credit cards, your first credit card experience was maybe you traded it for soda, or you traded it for a t-shirt or something while you were on campus. That might have been your first experience with a credit card, and you certainly didn't have a discussion with your parent about it. So it's not necessarily taught in schools or even in colleges. So where do you go to learn about finances? You learn by example. So you might have been in a home where your parents fought over money, where there were challenges financially. Maybe you grew up in a single parent home where there was other issues that came up. And that is the impression that's on you as a child. That's rooted deep inside you about your perceptions about money, and that impacts your ability to manage money. So being aware of how you grew up and how money was handled and talked about is another piece of the puzzle here.
Absolutely. So Lynne, I'd love for you to jump in and speak a little bit from your perspective about the relationship between money and women and why it's so complicated. I mean, obviously Leslie's sharing, so many pieces that we're all nodding our head because, we remember, I remember being in college in the student center and that table there with a water bottle and, other giveaways, and you're like, hey, they look good. Let me sign up for a credit card. And then, what comes next? And it could be debt, right? If you're not.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I have to say that when I got the invitation, I thought, why do they want me to talk about money, right? So I've been a nonprofit person my whole life. And while nonprofit is a tax status and not a business plan, it still is a sector primarily dominated by women. Salaries are lower, all those kinds of things. And Leslie, I feel like you were sitting in my kitchen table growing up as a kid. I think part of our relationship to money, or lack of a relationship to money, is that it's not polite to talk about it. Right? It's not polite to ask people how much they make. And so then therefore you don't know, am I being fairly compensated or not, right? Are the people doing similar jobs that I'm doing making more than I am, right? So because we're not supposed to ask, it's not polite, right? In fact, it's downright rude. So you start out, I think, very often at this disadvantage. I do think that there is a lot of shame around your spending habits, right? And are you going to be judged for different kinds of things? I also think that one of the things that we have to recognize is that that for women, because our salaries are lower, because there are challenges around childcare and how expensive childcare is, because our clothes are more expensive, because our haircuts cost more than men's do, it is actually expensive to work as a woman, more expensive than a man. Right? I can't wear the same suit to work every day, right? And just change the shirt, right? It just doesn't work that way for women. So we also have to understand that it actually costs us more to go out into the world and work than it does men. And yet we don't get compensated the same way. So it can be, it can be very confusing, and it can be very, very hard. And so I do think it is important. And thank you, Leslie, for saying, that you're not alone, right? We're not alone in this. We do need to ask, right? We need to seek out organizations or people who can help us. I'm really proud Greater Bergen Community Action is an anti-poverty organization. And so we do offer financial literacy classes. And now with Zoom, you can do it from the privacy of your own home or your desk at lunch. And we also have First Bergen Federal Credit Union, right? And you can open an account for as little as $5, right? And so we're really trying to make banking easier for people and more personable. I will tell you that the biggest challenges that I had as a young adult, yes, there was the credit card that I was handed, in college, no questions asked, but also sometimes my bank accounts, right? The fees that I was being charged in my bank account were horrendous, right? And so I could find myself getting caught because they were taking their money, right? Taking my money for their banking fees in ways that I didn't even understand completely. Like, why was I being charged so much? And so also being in a right relationship with your bank is really important. And if you're not in a right relationship with your bank, you need to switch banks, right? Because there are a lot of banks who take advantage of folks, right? You don't keep a minimum balance in there, boy, they're gonna get you, right? And so, but how can you keep a minimum balance if they keep getting you? And so I want to make sure that people know that there are options out there, and that we don't have to be trapped in relationships, right? We don't want to be trapped in personal relationships that aren't healthy for us. We shouldn't be trapped in banking or credit card relationships that are not healthy for us.
Absolutely. And Lynne, I have to say, when we were putting together this panel, we were very careful to curate, individuals and, power women really that, really could lend and shed some light on this conversation. And the connection of your organization and the work you do was clearly part of it, but also the breadth of your experience. I know you've worked with women in lots of different, stages and places in their lives and helped, connect them to resources. And, and as Leslie, so aptly said, I think, one of the problems that comes along with this relationship that women have with money is we do end up feeling like we have to suffer in silence if we don't know, and that we can't, reach out, and we don't know what's out there and who to connect to. So you've already shared some great resources and some, great, points for us. So I am, grateful that you both could be part of this discussion for sure. So, let's pull Corethia into this discussion a little bit too. Corethia, obviously we've touched on some of the challenges that women get pulled into with money. A lot of women think that they can't even think about investing, that's way like in a category that they can't even think about, because first of all, where would they find the money to do it? They're struggling with some of these other issues. Can you talk us through a little bit about a financial strategy and, how you can even spend any time thinking about that, in the midst of some of these other pieces?
Thank you for having me on this panel, Helen. I'm very honored to be here. I love what you do. I love what the YWCA does and stands for, empowering women and eliminating racism. And it just speaks volumes, all the work you've been doing through COVID in particular. My hat's off to all the work you're doing. I'm sure it's been unbearable because we've been all working our tail. If we're working our tails off. So hats off and kudos to you and your team, because I know it takes a village behind you to get that stuff.
Village. And to that end, I mean, that's really where we've all been focused, this discussion, right? I mean, we know women have been impacted, and that's why our work has become so urgent, because women, it was urgent before, but it's
more urgent now.
More urgent now, for sure.
So, there's so many things that I could speak on. I can't even, pick, but women, everybody invests. Okay. It's just, what are you invested in? Are you invested in Jimmy Choo shoes? Red bottom shoes? Are you invested in St. John's suits? To Lynne's point, we spend more money to go to work than staying home, and as Oprah would call, the flubbeting clothes, which I miss being in my flubbeting clothes now that I'm in my office. Had to lose some weight for that. So clothes didn't fit anymore. So Yes, everything we do is much more expensive than what men do. And, I'm listening to Leslie. It was so nice to meet you, Leslie. And Lynn, it's so nice to see you, Lynn. There's so many topics that we could talk about when it comes to planning your finances and having strategies. But I think the number one thing you have to do is just try to be aware of what you're doing. I used to do a women's seminar when I first came here in 2000. I can't remember the name of the seminar, but it talked about, different coffee factors, would you, instead of spending money going to a local expensive coffee shop, I won't say the name, take that, whatever it is, $2, whatever it is now, $4 probably, and save that. One thing I used to always bring is one of those little spiral notebooks that used to cost like $1. It's probably like $10 now for the little ones. And I would suggest that you bring one of those with you everywhere you go. And whenever you spend money, write it down for 7 days. Just for 7 days, write down every single penny you spend. And you'll see how much money you're spending. And particularly back then, they used to have those chocolate covered cherries at the counter at every drugstore, supermarket. And those little things cost what, $1 back then? Now they're probably $10. So if you write down every time you break a 20, you're going to see how much money you go through, and at the end of the week, you'll be like, oh my God, I spent all this money. I had a 20 and now it's like, I went to $300 in a week on miscellaneous nothing. And if you did that in 1 week, you could save that in a month. You could save that in a year. The other strategy I always recommend is pay yourself first, which we always recommend. People do that in their accounts at work if they have benefits. But if they don't, you could still pay yourself first, before you get your first dollar, before you spend it on your first bill, save yourself 10% of whatever it is that you're earning, and put it in, we used to have coffee cans. I guess we don't have cans anymore. Now we have pods, right? So find a tin or get yourself a really beautiful colored tin, or make it. Go somewhere, Michael's or whatever the stores are. Make yourself a nice little decorated box of some sort to put your little stash in there. Start saving some of your money. Every little penny counts. Don't look down your nose at those pennies. Don't look down your nose at those dimes and those nickels and those quarters, or those dollar bills, y'all. Because if you don't want them, we'll take them. We'll take the dollar bills. But if you start doing that, you start getting connected with your money. Because as it was said before, we don't want to talk about money. It's a shameful conversation. It's, we've been guilted. Look at piggy bank. I've always wanted to do a seminar with a piggy bank, but I'd have to buy and order a bunch of them, because after you break it, you have to break the piggy bank to get your money. Think about the psychological drama and trauma involved with that. I got to do something hurtful to get money. It makes a negative connotation. Yeah. So I think that you first have to start having a money conversation with yourself. Like Leslie was saying, you're not alone. Have a money conversation with yourself. Get your budget together. Find out what exactly you've got coming in and what you've got going out. If you want to get involved in investing, as you know, I do sustainable investing. That's why I'm a senior portfolio manager here. Most women, there's all sorts of statistics. 84% of women say they're interested in social responsible investing. And the millennials are right up there with them, 89%. So maybe if you can get yourself involved with something in the social responsible investing arena, that'll get you in a more positive mindset about money, because your money impacts the world, right? Women, as Helen's got a wonderful statistics at the Y about women, Black women, and our statistics on money. We don't make 77 cents on the dollar. Black women make like 47 cents on the dollar. Asian women make, you know the numbers better than me, Helen.
Yep.
So, but my thing is, what I don't like about statistics, for one thing, you can make them look any way you want. So, whatever story you're trying to tell, you can manipulate the numbers. So I don't like to get involved in statistics. What I do recommend is you look at yourself and find out where you stand. Figure out where you are financially. If you can't do that, you need to find a trusted advisor that can sit down with you, and you should not be charged for that. We're not attorneys. We don't get, so I know attorneys are supposed to charge, and it's fine, but they also do pro bono work, right? I'm not an attorney and I don't give legal or tax advice, but find somebody that's a trusted financial person that you could sit down and go over your numbers with. And you need to bear it all and be honest. You need to bear it all and be honest so that they can actually help you. If you went to a doctor, you would share everything that's wrong with you, right? You take off all your clothes, you put on the gown, you fill out pages and pages and pages about all your medical history. You got to do that with your money and not look at it as a negative thing, because you can't get anywhere till you know where you are.
I love that. I love that analogy, Corethia, because this really, you know, we always talk about financial wellness, right? And so it really is like an experience of physical wellness and mental health wellness, you know, that it really is, you do have to bear it all, put it out there, and kind of, you know, come up with a plan to be able to get where you want to be. And
I just wanted to say one thing about that. If you are going to a financial planner, which of course I am, but if you go to a financial planner, you need to, just like with the bank situation, I don't think it's a bad thing that banks charge money. I started out in banking and people were upset that we charged a fee. I'm like, we're not holding the money for free. We're a for-profit corporation, not a nonprofit tax status, to your point, Lynn. But find out what the fees are before you talk to that person. Get that information up front. You have a right to know what you're paying for.
Right.
And when you find out what the fees are and you don't understand them, make them explain it to you. If you don't understand something about your finances, which is one of our challenges that we just mentioned before, I think my computer went blank, then you need to go to the next person. And I would recommend you interview 3 people before you make a decision.
Yeah.
So I meant to say that.
So there's going to be a lot more strategies. You know, we're just touching on a few pieces here. We hope that you all can join us on Thursday morning at 10 a.m. We'll have these 3, you know, brilliant speakers with us, and we're adding a 4th, Patricia Barksdale, who's a vice president and wealth management advisor for Merrill Lynch. And, you know, together we'll explore in a much, you know, much more deeply this issue, and, you know, walk away with some real strategies to be able to get you to a place, you know, with your finances, you know, on the road, you know, to where you want to go. So grateful that our panel, part of our panel here, most of our panel, could make the time to start the conversation with you today. Again, for those of you watching, the link is here for you to be able to register for. It's a virtual conversation. You can do it from your office, from your home, wherever you happen to be. There is no charge, and there's going to be lots of great information and strategies and resources for you that you get to walk away with. And, you know, this is an ongoing discussion, you know, the same way where we talk about our physical health and our wellness. You know, it's not something that you do once and it's done. You know, we will be continuing these discussions ongoing, because, you know, this is so key for us to be able to get, you know, we talk about wanting to empower, we talk about wanting to get to equality, financial equality is key in us eliminating racism. Financial equality is key in women's empowerment. This is an intersectional item for sure, to be able to really uplift the mission of the YW, and the area that I know these 3 you know, brilliant women, you know, focus their efforts as well. So with that, I want to again encourage you to join us on Thursday morning. To send my thanks for starting the discussion with Corethia and Leslie and Lynn today. We also hope that you mark your calendars, start your day with us on Thursday and end your day with us on Thursday. That evening, we'll be working with the Teaneck International Film Festival. The YWCA of Northern New Jersey is sponsoring Little Girl, which is a film about a journey of a transgender child, and we encourage you to join us. I also be facilitating the talk back afterwards with a parent who has gone through this experience with her child, and a representative from the Division on Civil Rights from our Attorney General's office. So we really hope that you can make the time to join us for this important discussion. And for any of our young women who are interested in learning a little bit more about STEM careers and the importance of kind of exposing yourself to learn more about that so that you can think about options for your future. Think about joining us on November 30th for our Gen on the Go called the Science Type. We'll have links for all of these initiatives here for you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you all on Thursday. Take care. Thanks so much.